You died in apartment 304 of a building in Nakano on a Tuesday afternoon in March, and nobody noticed for 6 weeks. Not your landlord, not your coworkers, not the delivery driver who kept leaving packages outside your door that you obviously weren't collecting. Not the neighbor who shared a wall so thin she could hear your kettle boil every morning until suddenly she couldn't. In a city of 14 million people, you became a statistic before you became a ghost. Cause of death was a brain aneurysm. No warning, no drama, just your body's betrayal while you were microwaving leftover curry at 2 p.m. on a weekday. 1 second you were standing, the next you were on the floor, and then you were standing again. Except your body was still on the floor, and that's when you understood. You're dead. But you're also still here. And here's a 25 square meter 1K apartment in a building that was old when the bubble economy burst, in a neighborhood that guidebooks call residential, which is code for nothing happens here and nobody cares. The apartment has tatami mats that smell like 3 decades of other people's lives, a kitchenette with a 2-burner stove that only 1 burner works, a bathroom unit so compact you could brush your teeth while showering if you were still capable of doing either. The window faces another building 4 meters away, so the sunlight that reaches your room is secondhand at best, filtered through someone else's laundry and life. This was your home for 2 years. Now it's your eternity. The first week of being dead is mostly confusion. You try to leave the apartment and you can't. Not physically can't, like there's a barrier. You just lose interest the moment you approach the door. Your consciousness slides off the idea of leaving the same way water slides off glass. You can look out the window. You can see the street below, the vending machines, the telephone poles, the salarymen walking home at midnight with their ties loosened and their spines bent. But the thought of going out there feels impossible in a way you can't articulate. So you stay. You watch your body decompose in real time, which is exactly as horrible as it sounds. The smell starts on day 4. By day 10, the flies arrive. By week 3, your body is unrecognizable as something that was once you. You can't look away because there's nowhere else to look. This is your apartment. This is your existence. This is what happens when you die alone in Tokyo and nobody checks on you for 6 weeks. They find you because of the smell. A neighbor finally complains to the building manager. The manager unlocks your door with a handkerchief over his face and finds what's left. The police come. They take photos. They bag your body like evidence. They go through your apartment looking for identification, next of kin. Anything that explains who you were. They find your passport, your residence card, your expired health insurance documents. They find the English Conversation School business card in your wallet. They contact your emergency contact, which is your sister back in Ohio who you haven't spoken to in 8 months, because the time difference made it hard, and then the silence made it easier. She doesn't fly out for the body. She can't afford it. She arranges for cremation through the embassy and asks them to ship the ashes. You watch all of this happen. You watch strangers handle your things. You watch them box up your life into garbage bags and storage containers. You watch the cleaning crew arrive, the ones who specialize in lonely deaths. They wear hazmat suits and respirators. They scrub the floor where your body was. They remove the tatami mats and replace them. They repaint the walls. They erase you in 8 hours. Within 2 weeks, the apartment is listed again. Rent is 68,000 yen a month. Deposit, key money, guarantor required. The listing doesn't mention that someone died here because Japanese law only requires disclosure if someone asks directly, and foreigners usually don't know to ask. You wait. The apartment sits empty for a month. You spend that month testing the boundaries of your existence. You can move through the apartment freely. You can observe but not interact. You can't pick things up. You can't open doors or windows. You can't make sounds that anyone alive can hear. You're a witness with no testimony, a presence with no impact. You watch the seasons change through your window. The cherry blossoms bloom and drop their petals on the street below. The rainy season turns everything gray and humid. Summer arrives and the cicadas scream, and you remember how much you hated that sound when you were alive, but now you'd give anything to feel the heat that makes them sing. The first tenant moves in on a Saturday in July. Her name is Akiko. She's 24, works at a design firm in Shinjuku, just broke up with her boyfriend, and needed a cheap place fast. She moves in with 2 suitcases and a potted succulent. She doesn't have furniture yet, so she sleeps on a futon directly on the new tatami. You watch her that first night. She lies on her back staring at the ceiling, and you recognize the expression. It's the same one you had on your first night in this apartment 3 years ago. It's the face of someone who chose to be alone because the alternative was worse. But now the loneliness is setting in and they're wondering if they made a mistake. You want to tell her it gets easier. You want to tell her the conbini on the corner has the best egg sandwiches. You want to tell her the old woman in 201 is kind and will give you oranges if you help her carry groceries. You want to tell her to call someone, anyone, regularly, so that when she dies, someone will notice within 6 weeks. But you can't tell her anything, so you just watch. Akiko builds a life in your apartment. She buys a low table from a recycle shop. She hangs string lights that make the room feel less like a cell. She puts up postcards on the wall, places she wants to visit, Paris, Kyoto, Okinawa. She establishes routines. She leaves at 7:45 every morning, returns around 8 hon. She eats convenience store bentos while watching Netflix on her laptop. She talks to herself sometimes, which you find comforting, because it means you're not the only one having one-sided conversations in this room. She cries on Thursday nights. You don't know why it's always Thursdays. Maybe Thursdays were when she used to see the ex-boyfriend. Maybe Thursdays are just objectively the worst day of the week and she's the only one honest enough to acknowledge it. She sits on her futon with her knees pulled up and cries quietly, like she's trying not to bother the neighbors. You sit next to her. She can't see you or feel you, but you sit there anyway because if you can't comfort her, at least you can bear witness. At least someone can know that her sadness happened. 3 months in, you start noticing things, small things. Akiko leaves her apartment unlocked sometimes when she goes to throw out trash. Just for 2 minutes, but in Tokyo, 2 minutes is enough. You watch her leave, and you feel something you haven't felt since you died, anxiety. The door is unlocked. Anyone could walk in. You can't lock it. You can't protect her. You can't do anything except exist in this space and watch. Nothing happens. She comes back, locks the door, doesn't realize the risk she took. But you realize something. You still care. You're dead, and you still care whether this stranger who lives in your apartment is safe. You don't know if that makes you more human or less. Winter comes. Akiko buys a kotatsu, the heated table that every small Tokyo apartment relies on to survive the cold. She spends her evenings under it, her laptop on top, her body cocooned in warmth. You remember your kotatsu. You remember the specific feeling of not wanting to leave its warmth, even to go to the bathroom. You remember being alive and cold and having the ability to fix it. Now you're dead and you feel nothing. No temperature, no hunger, no tiredness. You exist in a state of permanent neutral observation. It should be peaceful. It's not. It's nothing. And nothing is worse than anything. Akiko starts bringing someone home, a guy from her office. His name is Tanaka. You learn this because she says it breathlessly against the wall that used to be your wall. They have sex on the futon that sits 2 meters from where your body decomposed. You don't feel violated by this. You don't feel anything. You just observe. This is what the living do. They use space without knowing its history. They make memories on top of erased ones. Tanaka doesn't stay over. He leaves around midnight, and Akiko lies on the futon alone, staring at the ceiling again. You recognize that look too. It's the look of someone who had physical intimacy, but is somehow lonelier now than before. You want to tell her that's normal. You want to tell her that Tokyo specializes in that specific brand of loneliness. The kind where you're surrounded by people, touched by people, and still feel like you're disappearing. But you can't tell her. So you watch. Months pass. Akiko's life continues. Work, konbini, Netflix, Thursday crying, occasional Tanaka visits. Sleep, repeat. You realize you're watching someone live the exact life you lived. Different job, different face, same structure, same loneliness, same tiny apartment, same city that takes everything you have and gives back just enough to keep you from leaving. You start wondering if this is why you're still here. Not because you have unfinished business, but because your life was so unremarkable that even death couldn't tell when it ended. Maybe you're still here because the transition from living in this apartment to haunting it was so seamless that the universe didn't notice the difference. A year after Akiko moves in, she gets a phone call that changes her. You can tell by her face. She answers, and her expression goes from neutral to shattered in the span of 3 seconds. She says, "Okasan," which means mother. She listens. She starts crying. Not Thursday crying. Different crying. She hangs up and sits on the floor and doesn't move for 2 hours. You sit next to her. The next day she's gone. She takes her suitcases, her succulent, her string lights. She leaves the kotatsu because it won't fit where she's going. She leaves the postcards on the wall. Paris, Kyoto, Okinawa. Places she'll probably never see now because whatever that phone call was, it rerouted her life. You watch her leave. You want to say goodbye. You want to say you're sorry for whatever happened. You want to say thank you for letting you feel something again. Even if that something was just secondhand anxiety and projected loneliness. She closes the door. You're alone again. The apartment sits empty for 3 weeks. The landlord comes in, takes the kotatsu, removes the postcards. He repaints again. Not because of you this time, just standard turnover maintenance, erasing one tenant to make room for the next. The second tenant is a guy named Kenji. He's 31, works in IT, recently divorced. You can tell he's divorced because he moves in with the specific kind of minimalism that comes from someone who left most of their stuff in another apartment with another person. He has a sleeping bag, a laptop, a rice cooker, and a suitcase of clothes. That's it. He doesn't decorate. He doesn't buy furniture. He treats the apartment like a place to physically exist between work shifts, nothing more. You understand him immediately. He's not living. He's occupying space until he figures out what living is supposed to look like now. Kenji works from home most days. You watch him take video calls in English with people in other time zones. His English is good, better than yours was. He sits at the low table Akiko left behind and types for 12 hours straight, stopping only to make rice or instant ramen. He doesn't cry on Thursdays. He doesn't cry at all. He barely shows emotion. He's a ghost in his own life, and you're a ghost watching him, and the apartment contains 2 people who aren't really present. Months pass. Kenji doesn't change. He doesn't buy furniture or decorations. He doesn't bring anyone home. He doesn't talk to himself. He barely talks on his calls. He's aggressively, almost performatively, alone. You start to worry about him the same way you worried about Akiko. Except with Akiko, you worried she'd get hurt. With Kenji, you worry he'll disappear the same way you did. One day, no warning, just gone. And nobody will notice until the smell starts. You watch him carefully. You look for signs. The signs you wish someone had looked for in you. He stops showering regularly around month 4. He starts sleeping at his desk instead of moving to the futon. He loses weight. His video calls get shorter. His responses get slower. He's fading. You can see it happening. You watch him on a Tuesday in March, exactly 2 years after you died. He's sitting at the table, staring at his laptop. The screen is black. He's not working. He's just staring. His face has the expression of someone doing math. The kind of math where you're calculating whether the effort of continuing is worth the result. You know that math. You did that math. You don't remember what answer you got because you died before you finished the equation, but you remember the process. You watch Kenji and you realize this is why you're here. Not to haunt, not to scare, not to pass on. You're here to witness. You're here because someone needs to see when a person in apartment 304 starts to disappear. Someone needs to notice. You couldn't save yourself, but maybe you can do something now, except you can't. You're a ghost. You can't speak. You can't touch. You can't call anyone. You can't intervene. You can only watch. And watching isn't enough. Watching is what everyone in this city does. Watching is why you decomposed for 6 weeks. You try anyway. You focus every ounce of whatever energy a ghost has. You try to move something, anything. The laptop, a pen, a piece of paper. You try to make a sound, a knock, a creak, a whisper. You try to manifest in a way that he can see. You try everything you've seen in movies and read in stories. Nothing works. You're not that kind of ghost. You're the useless kind. The kind that exists but can't affect. The kind that sees everything and changes nothing. Kenji stands up. He walks to the window. He opens it. The window you could never open when you were alive because it was painted shut. He must have fixed it. He looks down at the street 4 stories below. Your panic spikes. You move in front of him. You scream his name even though he can't hear you. You wave your arms like you're trying to flag down a plane. Nothing. He doesn't see you. He's looking through you at the pavement below, And then his phone rings. He stops. He looks at the phone on the table. It rings again. He walks back. He picks it up. He looks at the screen. He answers. "Oka-san," he says. "Mother." He listens. His face changes. Not much. Just a slight relaxation around his eyes. He says, "I'm okay, just busy." He's lying, but he answered. He's talking. He stays on the phone for 20 minutes. When he hangs up, he closes the laptop. He goes to the bathroom. You hear the shower start. When he comes out, he makes rice. He eats it slowly. He moves the futon away from the desk and lies down properly for the first time in weeks. He sleeps for 11 hours. You watch him the entire time. The next day, he opens the window again. But this time, he's just airing out the room. He leaves it open for an hour, then closes it. He takes another shower. He makes a video call, and he's more animated than you've seen him in months. He's not fixed, you can tell. But he's not fading anymore. At least not today. You realize the phone call saved him, not you. You didn't do anything. You couldn't, but you witnessed it. You saw the moment it almost happened and the moment it didn't. And maybe that's all a ghost can do. Maybe witnessing is the point. Kenji lives in the apartment for another year. He slowly starts buying things. A proper desk, a chair, a plant. He starts cooking real meals. He starts video calling someone who isn't his mother. A woman. They laugh together. He starts leaving the apartment on weekends. You don't know where he goes, but he comes back looking lighter. Eventually he moves out. Not in a hurry. Planned. He's moving in with someone. The woman from the video calls. He packs his stuff, cleans the apartment, bows to the empty room before he leaves. You don't know if he's bowing to the space or to something he senses but can't see. Either way, you bow back. The landlord comes in. Repaints, replaces the tatami again. Lists the apartment, the cycle continues. You're still here. You'll always be here. Apartment 304 in a building in Nakano. You watch tenants come and go. You learn their routines, their sorrows, their small joys. You can't help them. You can't save them. But you see them. In a city of 14 million people, where it's easy to die alone and be forgotten, you make sure that whoever lives in this apartment is seen. Even if they don't know it. Even if it changes nothing. You're a ghost in Tokyo. This is your haunting. Not scary, not dramatic, just present, just watching, just making sure that in this one small room in this massive city, someone is always paying attention. Because you know what happens when nobody does. You lived it. You died it. And now you spend eternity making sure you're the last person in apartment 304 who disappears without anyone noticing. The current tenant is a student named Yuki. She's 19. She moved in last month. She cries on Wednesdays. She doesn't call home enough. She leaves the door unlocked sometimes. You watch her. You'll always watch. It's all you can do. And in a city that specializes in loneliness, maybe being seen by a ghost is better than not being seen at all.